it's very technical, but very simple. So I, with a couple of local indigenous folk, we go out and collect seeds from the local Inhalus beds. Inhalus acroides is my main focus of attention because of my work previously in Thailand. I work for an NGO called Oceans for All, and they were not sustainable in the way that they collected seagrass seeds and also then sold those seagrass seeds to tourists. I go and harvest seeds on the other side of the island, on the east coast, and then I bring them back to the west side where I live in Fumba and Zanzibar, and then I propagate them in a tank. I allow them to, another secret of mine is allowing the roots to grow through certain structures, which allows the root structure to take hold in the sediment. I then have 4 or 5 separate planting areas that I do a specific planting routine where I do clump planting. So I take a sod from the existing seagrass ecosystem. I then plant the inhaler seeds within that sod. I stabilize the sod, and then me and the community, we go back out and we test plant.
So if I summarize, you collect seeds sustainably in the east coast of Zanzibar, you bring them over to west coast where you plant them. You have a tank where you germinate the seeds, and then you also take a bit of the sod from the east coast so that it feels home.
No, I've taken a sod from the West Coast because they're already available here. Okay, they're already on the West Coast, but not in large numbers. So I take some of the sediment and some of the other seagrass, which is like Thalassa hempricae and Sumadosia rotundata. I then insert the inhaler seed within the clump, into the sod, stabilize it within the tank, watch it, check it, make sure she's growing up, make sure we've gotten roots. We're going to head out into the ecosystem, plant it in, and then we have within the community, like, okay, let's try not fish, let's try not walk, let's, try and keep it a little bit out of the way, and then we're able to go and verify every few weeks, depending on the tides. It's been relatively successful, far more successful than Thailand.
What's the rate of the seagrass seedlings of successfully hatching and setting roots? How many of them die is my question.
Good question. Okay, so in Thailand, without this method, we were looking at maybe 10% survival maximum.
And with you in Zanzibar?
I'm getting up towards 60%. It's not the perfect ecosystem to do it on. I'm using Yamanzi. The sediment type is slightly different to what Inhalus likes. Inhalus likes a bit more of a silty sort of start like sediment, whereas Yamanzi and where I'm working, it's a little bit angular. So it's not perfect, but it's good. The technique works, and obviously, Inhalus is on the IUCN red list. If you look on there, it is, it comes on and off. In my opinion, it needs to stay on. Okay, I call it an ecosystem engineer. It is the largest seagrass. It can range up to 1 meter in length. You can essentially tell, we can tell that the health of an ecosystem by looking at Inhalus acroides. You've got the epiphytes within the blades. You can look at the root structure. You can look at the color of it. You can look at the boat scars because the boats that go over the top of it. It's essentially a thermometer for an ecosystem. That's why I'm so focused on it, because it's I'm not saying it's perfect, but it's a good indicator, very good.
And at what depth does the seagrass you're planting grow?
Another good question. It can grow all the way from right up in the shallow, so it's exposed. That's where I do my seed collecting, is in the shallow. So that's 0 to 2 meters. So imagine if it gets deeper as it goes along. You can catch it right up till the shore almost. It still needs a bit of water, but then it'll go down to maybe 10 meters depth. It can go pretty deep. Yes, yes. That's in Halas Acroides. Can you see it?
Yeah. And that's the one that
Okay.
grows of up to 1 meter.
Yeah. Yeah, there we go. My mum drew that picture for me. She's my favorite. But you can see the root structure. It's very good. It's very
Mhm.
good for holding sediment, holding carbon. I know you're very interested in carbon, but
Yes,
yeah.
we'll have a
And then
couple of
that's an
questions
example
about
of a
that.
seed, male and female, male and female stigmatas. Good stuff. Like it. My mum painted that for me.
Very good. And how much carbon can the roots absorb? And why do they absorb carbon?
So forget about the actual plant structure. Okay. The plant biomass does not hold carbon, not in any grade, because it's not a tree, right? A tree holds carbon. It's sequestered and it holds it within the structure of the tree. The biggest thing that Inhalus acroides and other seagrass does is that it holds carbon within the sediment.
Right.
Within it holds the sediment still. So the, when you think about carbon, you need to within a seagrass context, you need to forget about the biomass. You need to think about the root structure and then also uh, the sediment held by the root structure because that carbon, I think it's called autochthonous or lochner carbon from different sources, is then settles, layers down. The seagrass then grows up through it and then holds the carbon. So we're talking detritus. We're talking old dead trees and fine sediment settles, the seagrass grows, holds onto the carbon.
So if I understand correctly about the carbon absorption, so carbon sinks in through the ocean into the sediment, and because the seagrass is there, it binds it. If the seagrass would not be there, it would release back. Is that correct?
Within an intertidal system, yes. So within the intertidal system, the seagrass is there and it holds a root structure. The root structure holds as like an anchor. So if the seagrass or the salt marshes, I know you're talking about salt marshes the other day, not my
Yes.
area of expertise. Same principle. Carbon goes down, settles. Then if there's nothing there to hold the carbon and the water comes in, the carbon's going to get wiped out.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Anchors it.
How much fish life or other life can the seagrass provide habitat
No,
for?
no at all. Now this is where everybody should really focus is the biodiversity within the seagrass, mangrove, and also reef structures. Um, like a seagrass ecosystem, Nyamanzi, for example, is a juvenile stock of just all of the baby fish that we see on the reef. So the reef is maybe a kilometer from the seagrass bed. So we see juvenile fish within the seagrass bed at high tide, and then we see sometimes on the reef adult versions of the juveniles. So it's a nursery. It's a baby. It's where you put your babies.
How
You
many
know.
species use seagrass for nursery of their juveniles? Is it quantifiable or like in general, do fish just do that because it's a way how to find protection?
There we go. It's not a conscientious choice. They don't go lay their eggs. I believe it is the nearest available habitat that offers protection. You give me $100, I'll keep 30. I'll have to deal with the data. Radia goes out to the community. She then stimulates, teaches, engages with the local community to not create destructive practices within the seagrass ecosystem, because that is the major reason for habitat loss within my seagrass ecosystem. Seaweed farm, horrible. Everybody thinks it's amazing. Oh, seaweed, yay. When they dig into the sediment, they do this stick and line technique. They then trample the seagrass around the outside. The seagrass then degrades gradually from the seaweed farm, right? Stop that. We'll pay you from Radia 70 or we'll come to an agreement. Get rid of that. Second idea,
Okay.
$100 I'm working with. But the next one is unsustainable cockle foraging. Okay, so another group of ladies, another group of men out on the seagrass ecosystem go and pick out certain cockles, clams, shells, bivalves, whatever you want to call them. Delicious, I love to eat them, right? But unsustainable because those little pesky little things clean the sediment by eating all the detritus. You then change the ecosystem every time they go out. There's no sustain. It's not sustainable. So that like I'm selling maintenance. I'm not selling increase. All right.
Gotcha.
Everybody sells the dream. I'm selling what I've already got. I like it out there already.
So actually, the product is maintaining naturally grown seagrass by instructing the indigenous and helping them get rid of unsustainable practices that can actually destroy the existing natural grown seagrass. So what do you do with the seedlings then? I mean, you collect the seeds and I assume that you plant them eventually.
The seagrass, the inhalus, of course I do. Of course. But if I sell that idea to you, I am just as bad as what I saw in Thailand.
Yeah.
So I just replicate the mistakes that I saw in Thailand and I bring them to my hometown. I'm not going to do that. I'll put pretty pictures up of me eventually, of potentially reestablishing an Hallis bed, eventually increasing seagrass density along the degradation zones of my seagrass bed. But how can I justifiably do that without having an accurate and enforceable management plan in place? Because from what I've seen in Thailand, I can plant thousands of seagrass seeds. One single boat will come out and wipe out all of my hard work. Oh, you've just dragged a net through the seagrass seeds.
So what would you recommend in terms of seagrass to the global community about planting seagrass?
Like I've been to Project Seagrass's sites in Wales, right? I've done my due diligence. I've been up to Scotland and that's done correctly. Okay. They did great baselines. They involved great universities, Swansea University, Richard Unsworth. This is that's the gold standard, right? Uh, whereas at a local level, without prior planning, without without prior knowledge, without reading all of the mistakes that have already happened within the world, such an easy thing looks easy when you see it online, but it's not. It's like planting a tree. It's the same problem with reforestation, red plus plus methodologies, and all of the work I did with Drea going through PDD documents. It
Yeah.
seems very simple to regrow a forest, but it's not.
So the product here is conservation of the existing seagrass, not restoration through planting new seagrass.
Correct. Maintenance, appreciate what you've got, attempt to restore. I'm not selling hype.
Gotcha. How do you deal with land acquisition, or in this case, seabed acquisition? Is it a commons?
Okay, so it's called the Share management system in Zanzibar, specifically Tanzania, Share. So a Share is basically the local chief, the local tribesman who would have had one of these back in the day, right? But
Yeah,
now
gotcha.
he holds sway within the community, and he is the main point of contact for everyone. So over the last 2 years, I've slowly approached the Share. We became friends. I bought a little plot of land off him, employed a couple of boys to uh, build the seagrass center slowly. And then through that, that's opened the door to then be able to talk to the seaweed ladies, the fishermen, the various other actors within the local area. So the Shea management system, specifically within Zanzibar and Tanzania, is the system of LMMA, Local Marine Management Area. So essentially through him, I'm able to sway opinion, like sway. You can't shout, stop it. That's not going to work. I understand that the catch size, the biomass that they bring into the fish market is decreasing. The ladies on the seagrass bed realize that the cockles, it's decreasing. Everything is reducing. They have a very long memory of some of these ladies out there are like 60 years old. They remember when they were kids, their catch was bigger. The fishermen know the catch was bigger 20 years ago. but it's trying to piece the ideas together for them to show them that maybe we work together and try and reduce our impact.
Is the Shea a theological leader, or is it how does that person become elected?
I've never asked that question. It's
Yeah.
not right for me to go, how are you, the boss?
Gotcha.
I just go, hello, boss.
What question should I have asked and have not asked?
If I am restricting access to a ecosystem, or the provisions that an ecosystem provide the local community, what am I giving in exchange? Because if you think about it, I'm now enforcing rules upon a community where I've only been here 2 years. What is the give and take? If you enforce something, there has to be give and take. So I think that would have been a question I would have asked. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, is it capital? Is it education? Is it like,
And what's the answer?
well, capital and education, basically, to restrict access, but also create jobs which are beneficial to the ecosystem.
So we are basically taking capital from the West, giving it to you. That gets split mostly between the local community to change behavior, and you provide education. That's basically your cut and influence.
Organization. Yeah.
Can I show you something? Because I've been playing with rendering AI content and I was imagining planting seagrass, but basically now what you've told me, the stuff which I have generated is actually completely wrong. But let's take a look at it anyway, and I want to hear your comment. So here we have a diver planting seagrass in a barren seabed, right?
Never gonna happen. Never gonna work.
So this is actually wrong.
Completely. Get rid of it.
Yeah.
Delete it. It insults me to my core. Sediment is incorrect. You're planting within a barren sediment. Like you're using my favorite seagrass there, that is Inhalus acroides. Okay. I've planted it subsea before, but you need to be very specific, site specific. I'm giving you far too much information. You can't plant Inhalus acroides within an angular sediment. The root structure is far too sensitive. It will not grow through an angular sediment.
Yeah, that's basically what I've heard from your interview, that planting seagrass like that is just wrong, and that we have the barren sea which will not grow in. How long does the sediment take to form? Because it sounds like the sediment is super critical.
Yeah. As it rains, as various water sources come from the land, the water then pushes out the dark sediment, that then pushes it out to sea, to the particular bed. But that's just that particular kind. There are other seagrasses that like that kind of sediment. They do. Halophilia ovalis. That's a little one. That's a little baby one. It's like very small. I've got a diagram for you. Hold on, stand by. Halophilia. These ones. They are more happy in the coarse angular sediment because they've got a tiny little root structure. This one is not to scale. This one is to scale. That one is a meter long. That's my baby. These ones like that angular sediment, but attempting to replant that is impossible. Well, it's very difficult.
James, I'm super happy for this interview. You gave me so much information and content. Hey, here we are diverting capital to seagrass conservation. This is what the money will be used for.